We are one more week from the spot that we've all been waiting for since February. We were drafting teams in February, you maniacs. But one more week, our teams are going to be in the playoffs. We get to tout our exposures, say all the people that we absolutely hammered on. We'll probably wince by the people that we were big misses on. Today, myself and Erik Beimfohr are going to go over some of our teams that are in the playoffs, some that are teetering on the edge, and look at some of the teams that we drafted on stream throughout the year and see how those are going. Erik, a week away from the playoffs of best ball season. Can you believe it?
No, I think we talked a little bit about this last week. I'm so excited. I want this regular season to get over. Most of my highest owned players have all been trash, but yet I still have an above average advance rate. Everybody, this is what we spend literally on this channel, and you and I and everybody in the chat spend all year like drafting for. You know what I mean? This is it. This week I think is really fun because you can still pipe dream about a lot of teams. You know, in 2 or 3 more weeks they'll be dead. Most of them.
Yep.
But now is like, I'm scrolling through my teams and I'm like, it's only 30 points back. Can I find this one? I found a quick side tangent. I was going through all my teams, which you can luckily do in our Draft IQ tool, sort by how many points behind your teams are and go scroll through all those teams. Then you can also go to the league directly from that page and see how you're doing, what teams you need to catch and all of that. I found one that I'm like 30 or 35 points behind a Davis Maddock team, but he has both of his quarterbacks on bye. He has JT on bye, and I don't believe he has a tight end because he has like injuries, maybe like Goddard and Hurst or something like that. And so it's like, you find these little, I don't think my team is like that good, but it's like you find these little nuggets at this time of the year that like can be exciting, you know what I mean? And that's what's fun. Like I said, we'll get a month from now, and the odds are you're not going to win anything big, but right now is like this is what we spend 6 months, 9 months drafting all these teams for.
So if you get this team through, will this be exhibit A of, hey, maybe bye weeks do matter
100%.
a little bit?
I'll turn full bye week, bro, and I'll use Davis. Then Davis is probably the guy who doesn't like to draft quarterback. He just so happened to have it on this team. He might have auto drafted it for all I know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I will definitely, I'll use Davis's platform to better myself with the bye week situation and totally flip flop on my take.
So what I love seeing over the past few days on Twitter, I haven't engaged as much. I've been watching from a distance a little bit more, is all of the arguments we've had this past year and the year before. Guess what? We're going to get to have them again this next coming off season because I see people falling into some of the same traps that they've been in, or like they won't leave certain lines of thinking behind or try to analyze, not middling it, but like incorporating it into their strategy. They just hardline everything, which you should hardline some stuff, but there's certain things like taking stands on players is the big one I've seen this week, where people are like, it's you never take a stand on a player. And I'm like, what do you mean you never take a stand on a player? Like it literally doesn't make any sense to me that you don't take stands on players or offenses. I mean, what we should do at some point is go back and look at our last board for offenses, and I bet we nailed a lot of those, right?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yep.
But we totally got some wrong. Like we totally got the Seahawks wrong. We totally got the Broncos wrong. Those are the 2 main ones that I think of every time. But for me, I was dead set against drafting hardly any Saints, right?
Right.
And I feel good about it. I like Olave. Olave is a good wide receiver, but in the context of his offense, are you upset if you advanced 0% Olave into the playoffs right now?
No.
Right?
No.
So like just stuff like that. It's gonna be a fun off season.
Definitely. The whole we got a long time to, like you said, to rehash the same shit we talked about for first all of this year and all right, 2 years in a row. We've done all these conversations and we're going to do them all over again. But we actually had a really good conversation in the Discord yesterday, kind of about that taking stands on players versus structure versus whatever. And not to, belabor that point again, because again, we'll talk about it plenty. And if you're in the Discord, we've already had this convo. But I think really it just gets misconstrued. Structure is the ante to the game. If you draft a bunch of like 5 quarterback, 4 tight end teams, you're dead. You're paying the rake, right? In any form of peer-to-peer gambling sport, which is what this is, there's people that are going to pay the rake, right? You play the Millie Maker or whatever every single week in DFS. Just don't be that guy that pays the rake. Give yourself a shot to win. It's all you're really trying to do. That's what structure does, right? That's the same thing. Roster construction. You're more of a poker guy. There are basics of poker that you have to understand in order to not be the right. If you can't spot the fish at the table, you're probably that guy. It's the same thing across all of these peer-to-peer things. And that's what structure is, right? Now, that means a million different things. What does structure mean? But the player take thing is just, if you really want to just draft 8 to 10% of everybody, go ahead. That's up to you. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I think that there are better ways to try to win in this game that we're playing. But I think that's fine. That's really a portfolio management conversation.
Right.
The player take versus structure thing is like, I have player takes personally myself, and I draft with structure. It's not it's not either or between the two of those things. They're very different. They're different levers that you can pull in this game. And one thing that I always think about is that conversation feels very results focused to me. Yeah. I'm not saying that's true for every single person that's saying that. Felix, who we talk about frequently, Liam, who we talk about frequently, because they both won $1 million playing this game last year, took massive players. Like they probably were 2 of the most massive player stand players in all of best ball. Felix was drafting like 90% Nico Collins or some shit. You know what I mean? And that didn't really help him. But he was Cooper Kupp, JT, all the winners. He took huge stands on. When you hit it, you're like, yeah, what idiot drafts 8% of every player? When you draft 50% Cooper Kupp last year, you probably feel like, yeah, player takes are pretty important. But if you drafted 50% Robert Woods last year, you have you're probably like, oh my God, I can't do the player take thing. I got to smooth out my exposures. You know what I mean? And so I just think it's a problem with the game itself, because it's one big slate that takes a whole year. It takes a whole year. We start drafting in April. It pays out in January. So it's a 9-month slate. And, it's easy to start to fear the risk of ruin when it's 9 months, when it's one poker tournament, when it's one DFS slate, when it's one battle royale slate, when it's one of any of those. It's really easy to be like, nope, took a stand on Christian Kirk like you did, and that didn't work. Okay, we move on to week 15. But when it's a best ball slate, it's like, you idiot. Why would you ever take that big of a stand on that guy? Don't you know how risky that is? It's like, they're just different conversations that I think get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and they make it seem like it's like you have to do one or the other, when you should be knowing how to incorporate your player takes into the structures that you are drafting. Right? Like, that's, and again, we'll get into that later. I want to get into some of these teams that we drafted on stream. Yeah. Do you have any specific ones that you want to share, or do you want me to start?
I want you to pull it up, because I haven't done my full research. And when I was trying to go through some of those a little bit before this, there's like none that I drafted that are any good on stream, whether it was me or with somebody. But I know you had quite a bit of success on the stream drafts.
I have a couple that I want to go through. So we'll start early. We'll start with the big board. And I don't know if anyone in the chat remembers, or if you remember, but I drafted a team with Pat Carrain. and I did not allow Pat Kerrane to draft a wide receiver until the 8th or 9th round, I think it was, something like that. And lo and behold, here we are. It's tight. We might not make it. We're in second place with 1,510.9 points. Third place has 1,501.04. So we got about close to a 10-point lead here. Like, we're nursing that. But let's look at this roster real quick. So we have Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. So this is how old this is, right? You can see that Jalen Hurts
went before. Yeah.
Yep. Kyler was going before. We have Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, and Breece Hall as our running backs, which would have been pretty fun if Breece Hall stayed healthy. Here's where it gets real interesting. We have Chase Claypool. Our second wide receiver drafted was William Fuller. Second wide receiver drafted. We have Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry.
How old are these wide receivers?
Julio, Devontae Parker, Nico Collins, Sky Moore, Quez Watkins, De'Ami Brown. We got Darius Slayton on the team. How we even drafted Jalen Reagor.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back and watch this later and see how the fuck you guys landed on Jalen Reagor.
I think this is a 20 spot draft. That's how we get down there. And then our tight ends are Kittle and Evan Ingram. So
that's good. The receivers are horrendous. But
good point. I didn't even realize this. Top 3 advance in big boards. So we actually probably are going to make it in. We have a 50-point lead. That team's probably going to make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to do much, but hey, I just wanted Kerrane to see that you could draft a wide receiver first in like the 8th or 9th round, and we could make it through.
Yeah, turn this shit off. I'm about to kick you off the stream. But can you pull the team up really fast one more time? Sure. I just want to see, like, because obviously when you think about this, right, you're good at quarterback. Mm-hmm. You're good at. I know there's no Breece, but even not having Breece in the playoffs, Dalvin, Chubb, and Aaron Jones is good, right? Like theoretically, you could use all 3 of their scores, and you are going to get a good quarterback score. So those are done. You just need to find 3 wide receiver weeks out of here, and like it doesn't look pretty, obviously, with like the specific names, but dude, crazy stuff happens when you have what do you have, 12 wide receivers? Or crazy stuff happens when you have that many wide receivers. They're not all, obviously Will Fuller's not playing, and Quez got hurt, and Reagor really doesn't play. But I don't know, like
if Julio finds the fountain of youth for a game,
if you just find 3 touchdowns. Like, you don't need to find 3 30-point games. You just need to find 3 touchdowns.
Right.
Julio could do it. Slayton could do it. Nico could do it. Parker could do it. Boyd obviously could do it.
Yep.
It's like I think the difference that we talk, this is actually really fascinating team to pull up. I'm glad you brought this one up, because this is the difference between advancing and even maybe advancing a playoff round or who knows, maybe 2 if you really run that pure at wide receiver. But when you reach the finals, you just don't have enough wide receiver juice to win, to finish first in that final round. Right?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
You could make it there just by sheer luck, of some touchdown variance here and there, but there's just no ceiling with these wide receivers. And so,
the only way would be as if, like, this is the 1 in a billion chances Cook, Chubb, Aaron Jones all have their 40-point outburst games week 17, right? Like, and what are the odds that happens? Like, slim to none.
And because none of those guys, Chubb, I guess, will be a little bit owned depending upon what he does in the playoffs. But like, nobody's going to have Dalvin. Nobody's going to have Aaron Jones. Kittle's not going to be very popular, right? So like, you have outs to just spiking binking a game from Aaron Jones, a 40-point game from Aaron Jones that literally no one else has. But even then, you do still need wide receiver points. It's like, you can't have 8 to 10 wide receiver points across your 3 wide receiver spots, or 4. And so it's a really good example though of like, dude, if you want to, like, especially in 20 rounds, if you just get a little lucky with a robust team, like, you didn't even really get lucky because you don't have Breece. Like if you get lucky and that Brees is ETN or whatever, you're looking awesome at running back. But even though you would have Dalvin, Chubb, Aaron Jones, and ETN, you couldn't ship. But and two awesome quarterbacks and a quote unquote elite tight end. Kittle hasn't been elite much this year. You can't win. Like you're drawing basically dead. So it's kind of a fascinating team to look at.
Well, it also shows that, like, if you were to draft for a bust, and we had a specific parameter we were working around here,
right?
But if we say we kept Jalen Hurts and not Kyler, right? Or say we even kept Kyler, say we took Kyler, and either way, we turned one of these quarterbacks into a stud wide receiver and kept this running back room the way that it is, and we had just the one anchor wide receiver, basically, it makes you feel a lot better about that chance of shipping if you made it to the finals. But again, although this team was kind of like a joke team, we still drafted within structure, right? Like
this is structural drafting. Like this is like you committed to something and then you built the proper structure around that commitment.
Right.
You know what I mean? That commitment was you did it backwards. You know, you just said I'm not gonna, because it was funny, I'm not gonna draft a wide receiver till X round. But what that really means is I'm gonna draft a robust running back team with elite quarterbacks and an elite tight end.
Yep.
That's what you really said. And so this is what it looks like. This is what that looks like.
Yep. Do I like it? No. Was it fun? No. It was fun to make Corain squirm the entire draft. Wasn't happy.
The other thing that is kind of an interesting lesson, I know I don't, you could pick out any of the running backs. I don't really, it's easy to use Brees because he got hurt. Brees would probably not be, I would probably remove Dalvin or something. But some of my best teams are actually robust 3 running back teams. You know, it's like basically people want to draw lessons among all this stuff. My lesson is everything that I felt beforehand about extreme structures. All of my best teams are some form of extreme, meaning extreme 0 RB, like my first running back is Ramondre, right? Yep. Extreme robust with right. My 3 running backs are just good enough and they stayed healthy. Like it could be like JT, Chubb, and Miles. Like I think I have one that's like Miles Sanders as my 3rd running back. But I only drafted those 3, and simply because those guys stayed healthy and they were good enough, I have so many wide receivers, I have elite quarterbacks, right? I have all this other stuff, or extremes like literally solo Kelsey, no other, one tight end, just Kelsey, and that allowed me to be like, dude, I know I'm not going to have, Diggs or Devontae or Jefferson or, Eckler or CMC or whatever, but I'm going to have more running backs and more wide receivers than everybody. And I'm probably going to have an elite quarterback. It's like the extremes like this. I think that's how you win this game.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to pull up?
I was trying to find. Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead because I'm trying to find.
So I brought my co-host Dave on from Hometown Ghost Stories early, and we did a big board draft together, and we can see here we're in 3rd, but we're in 3rd with over 60 points, so we're probably advancing this team. I was inverted, the weekly goat who just wins 25 grand every week. Amazing. Is in 2nd on this. But let's take a look at our team here. So we have Josh Allen and Justin Fields, which is a real fun quarterback start.
The nuts.
So we have
not
Najee.
The nut running backs. Not the nut running backs. We went from the absolute nut quarterback to not the nut running backs.
Nope. So we have Najee, we have Aaron Jones, Kenneth Gainwell, Raheem Mostert, Justin Jackson, Dearness Johnson, Damian Pierce right at the end there.
That's fine. What a run out on Justin Jackson, by the way. The fact that I know he's really not doing anything to help us in best ball. He's getting on the field and touching the football, which is probably better than what you expected when he ended up as the 4th running back for the Lions.
Yeah, not the way I thought he was going to go. As the 4th running back is the Lions when we drafted him. We have Diggs, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, RIP, Chase Claypool, OBJ, Julio Jones, Isaiah McKenzie, Wandale, RAP,
Mm.
De'Ami Brown, and then Noah Fant and Hunter Henry as our tight ends. So not it's like this is like I think the epitome of what you were talking about. Like this team's gonna get through, but I can't imagine it making much noise. Right?
You have the nut quarterbacks
mm-hmm.
enough at running back to accumulate over the course of the year, right? This is another good example of the huge difference between advancing and winning a tournament. When you just have all your running backs stayed healthy, right? You hit on Dameon Pierce.
Yep.
Basically. Mostert kind of.
Yep.
You hit on two late-ish round running backs,
mm-hmm.
and you hit on quarterback. And it's like you just accumulate, and nobody got hurt. You know, I know you don't. And Mooney got hurt, and Odell's not playing. But I mean, like, the majority of your team is healthy and accumulating points all year, and you hit on quarterback. And it's like you might advance that way when 3 teams out of 12 advance. It's like, yeah, but I mean, how the hell is this team winning anything in the playoffs? You know, it just doesn't have the juice. And so another good example of, I mean, it's a good team, but it's like a good example of you're not excited, right? When you scrolled through your teams, you were like, oh, it's cool, this is advancing, but I'm not like when week 15 comes around and you're like probably actually sweating your teams, thinking about the good ones. You're not thinking about this one.
It's fun that I ended up with I know Darnell Mooney's hurt, but we ended up with that Justin Fields double stack with Claypool and Mooney. What I think this team also shows is just the different headspace you can be in when you're drafting in. This team was probably drafted in February or March. I would say, I mean, clearly it's a big board team, so that sounds likely. It shows you where your headspace is then versus if I were to draft a team in August. I probably wouldn't have taken Pittman on this team. I probably wouldn't have touched Darnell Mooney at all. I mean, obviously, Dameon Pierce would have been up the board a bit, but I still would have been in on Mostert. I can't imagine I would have thought about Justin Jackson at that point if it was later in the season. So it just shows you like where your headspace and what, not only where your headspace is, but what information you have early in the season. So that's another one. Let me look at my list here. All right, so we're going to get to a little bit bigger stuff. Do we want to? I got to go to the regular season, which is right here. All right, do we just want to start with the big dog team?
Yeah.
And we've looked at this team before. This is the one I drafted on stream with Pete. You know, there's top 4 advance. You can see that we are in first, and we have a 250-point lead over the next advancing team. So we almost have a 300. We just can't get outscored by 300 points, basically, from all the teams behind us this week. So we are advancing this team.
It's going to be a real sweat on Sunday. It's going to be a sweat.
We want to rest all our guys. So I still need to go back and look at what the hell we did at quarterback here. Because we have Jalen Hurts, Ryan Tannehill, and Zach Wilson. And the only thing I can think of without having rewatched the stream is we were worried about, I think we got locked out of the second quarterback. I think we wanted like Tua or Lawrence or something, and they went a lot earlier than they normally would have. And I think the fear was we took Tannehill. We'll go over it in a second because I think we have Burks, but we'll hit that quarterback talk in a second. Running backs are Leonard Fournette, Breece Hall, Ramondre, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, which is just studs, right?
That you hit so well that Breece being out literally could not possibly matter less. Right. I think it matters. Like when you get to these, but this team is still live. This team reminds me of a different version because Breece is different of, ironically, the team Pete and I drafted last year that did really well in Best Ball Mania 2, where our first running back was Mostert, but still that was like the 7th round. Breece was probably your 5th round pick. It's not that's like close enough, right? And so we lost Mostert on like the second snap of the season and finished 8th in Best Ball Mania 2. You have no Breece, and like And you have no Breece Hall and Leonard Fournette as your worst running back out of 5.
Yep.
Like that's batshit crazy. Like that is lit. Like you would prefer, the crazy thing about this is you would prefer to move Lenny into something else, right? And you were just like talking about the 3 quarterback thing. You would prefer to move a quarterback and Lenny into something else. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
But like you are blowing away the field because you hit on so many things and you're still like, damn it, what if we did this? You know what I mean? That's how crazy you hit on so many things.
Well, how many teams are having Kenneth Walker drive them to the postseason, right? And then you look at our team, and he's barely outscoring Breece Hall still because our other running backs hit so hard in certain spots. So we go to wide receiver, and this is how we have a chance to win because we do have firepower at the wide receiver position too. So we have CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Jerry Jeudy, MVS, Burks, McCole Hardman, Alec Pierce, and Will Fuller, which just seems to be a recurring theme, you know.
But there's still juice here, even without
there's definitely juice here because you're just looking at we're probably playing 3 running backs a lot of the time.
Yeah.
For the flex, so we're talking.
Lenny is the problem. The problem on this team is Leonard Fournette, not even Will Fuller. The problem is Leonard Fournette, like, because if he were like, I'm not trying. It's always easy. We'll go through a million teams today. Probably it's always easy to say, well, what if this guy was this guy? But like, if Lenny was whatever, Tyreek or even a tight end, Mark Andrews, you're like, goddamn, this team is unstoppable.
Yep. And we have CD and AJ Brown for 2 of the 3 wide receiver spots. And then you're just telling me that I need Jeudy, MVS, Burks, Alec Pierce to find a game here and there.
Pierce has scored more points for this team than Treylon Burks. I know Burks has more weekly upside right now, assuming this concussion's not a big deal. But like, Pierce is a good wide receiver to have on your teams. He's not going to win you the week, but he scored like 18 fantasy points or something like that this past week. Like, dude, you get that from your 15th round pick on a team that needs the wide receiver juice. Like, yeah, he can do that. He can buy for 80 and a touchdown.
Yep. And we have Gerald Everett, who is fine because he plays tight end. And we have Gesicki, who has had some games here and there. So it's a possibility. So like, this team, I'm actually excited about because I don't think you have to come in first every week in the playoffs in the big dog.
No,
it's a little easier to advance, and I think we have the juice to actually squeak this team into some fun things, to be honest.
Lundar, the Vikings fan, is already pre-tilting Week 15 Colts offensive players against. I know he's a Vikings fan, and he's well, don't worry. Pierce is going to eat against my Vikings in Week 15. They suck on defense.
Perfect. Then I love it. So, yeah, this quarterback thing, I think basically what happened was we panicked. We grabbed Tannehill to pair with Burks because we missed out on our quarterbacks.
But that's fine. You just don't need Zach Wilson.
I think then we were like, well, Tannehill might not keep the job all year. This is what I'm trying to go back to when we drafted.
Little did you know Zach Wilson was the one that wasn't going to keep the job all year. That's great.
Right. So, and we thought Hurts was going to be really, really good. I didn't know we were getting MVP Hurts.
Yeah.
Like, so
QB
there's some things.
3. Yeah.
So to your point, as good as this team is, there's definitely things that, like, if I could just go back and tweak 1 or 2 things, and like, not even the Breece Hall thing, leave Breece Hall there.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because I think that's fine. But if we could just tweak 1 or 2 things, then, I remember drafting CD first. We decided to draft CD in the first round to just get the team a little more unique.
Over Diggs, Devontae, Kelsey.
Might have been, or they might have already been gone. If I can't remember for sure, but
definitely no regrets if they were already gone. If they were already gone, it's just another little. There's like 3 things on the whole team where you're like, damn it. Again, Breece is not one. Injuries or whatever. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, I want to say they were already gone.
The third quarterback, Lenny, and then if they were not already gone, you're like, oh man, Diggs or Devontae look a little better than CD here.
Right. All right. Well,
I want to hit some. I want to hit some of the comments
Okay.
Just because there's first of all, Lundar, you're goddamn right. I ran a 4.540 way back in the day. I probably run a 5.540 nowadays in my old age. But I would cook the corpse of Patrick Peterson. You bet your ass. I would cook Patrick Peterson. Did you see him getting cooked?
Did you
up
say
by
you ran
Garrett?
a 4.4?
I ran a 4.5. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's impressive. I ran a 4.8 and I was happy that I was able to do that. Now I'm running like a 7.8 at this point in my life.
I did play college defensive back. You can't run a fucking 5 flat 40 and cover guys. But seriously, the corpse of Patrick Peterson, Garrett Wilson made that dude like he needs to. He almost probably did pull Devontae Davis and retired at half. That Garrett Wilson was, if they would ever call holding penalties or PI or whatever on Patrick Peterson, he was just mugged every time Garrett Wilson got open. It was the only time it didn't get completed was because he absolutely mugged him. So yeah, I'm excited for anyone. Christian Watson's a good one. Week 17, as long as the Packers don't totally tank it off. Christian Watson against the Vikings could be fun in week 17. This is kind of an interesting one actually. B. Kurt says he's hoping for Elijah Moore, and I know Elijah Moore hasn't popped off, but he's another guy when you get on your teams that if he's there, I think he's not a guy you're like, oh my god, yes, this is a stone cold smash, but he's a guy where like, dude, with Mike White in there now, the Jets are going to score points on everybody. Do I know who it's going to be? I mean, of course, your first bet is Garrett Wilson, but like Tyler Conklin got like 6 targets this week or something like that. Elijah Moore, once they realize that every route that Braxton Berrios runs needs to be an Elijah Moore route, like he's got real upside. Like if Elijah Moore popped off for a 25-point game in the playoffs or in week 17, would I be surprised? Absolutely not. So he's a really good example of a guy I am excited for. Terrence should have listened to us on the Saints. Yeah, I mean, Jesus, 2 years in a row, both Rob and I have been talking about I called the Saints my House of Cards offense 2 years ago. That's one W I would like to take out of like 100 L's. But like the Saints were terrible last year, and they're worse this year. Oh, it feels better because Olave is like hitting, but like, is Olave really like hitting? You know what I mean? Like, and maybe that'll change. Maybe he goes for 150-2 against somebody in the playoffs, but Olave is like a sexier Curtis Samuel. Like Curtis Samuel's helping you because he's getting multiple double-digit weeks. He had one like 19-point week. Like it's helping you. Olave's like, we know he's really good at football. Like there's no questioning that. Like, so you hit on, if this were what was the old game that they came out with, like NFL head coach? Yeah, NFL head coach.
Yeah.
This were NFL head coach and you drafted Chris Olave. You're like, you're goddamn right. Like I'm a genius. That's not how it works. Like I think Deontay Johnson is good too, but he's fucking useless in best ball. Olave's not Deontay, but he's just not like Garrett Wilson is like, if Garrett Wilson's on my team, I'm like, you're goddamn right. This team is, has a smash. Olave's like, I'm happy, but I'm not like, rocket ship emoji, basically. And it's all the Saints. It has nothing to do with Olave. It's strictly only a Saints issue. And then I wanted to, there's some more here. This is a sick team. Cobra Kai is back is a funny name. I demand my Jefferson, Tyreek, AJ Brown team, which I think I have a couple of these too, like maybe 2 or 3. With Olave, I don't have this. With Olave, Juju, Curtis Samuel, and Jalen Hurts. So he has a Hurts, AJB stack with Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, Olave, Juju, and Curtis Samuel at wide receiver. If you have even like reasonable running backs, and tight ends that are running routes, these are the teams you want to be excited for. And I think it goes back to that wide receiver juice thing that we were talking about. Like, as long as you have the wide receiver juice, dude, running back can just fall your way, right? Nobody thought 2 weeks ago Samaje Perine was going to be the RB1 for 2 weeks or whatever. That shit happens, dude. Any given time, somebody gets a concussion, the backup steps in, and or somebody gets shut down because the team stinks, right? Justin, next thing you know, week 16, Justin Jackson is the RB1 for the Detroit Lions, and that team you showed has legs. I just think, if you have the wide receiver firepower, you have good quarterback play, and you just have tight ends that are at least okay. Of course, you want Kelsey, but if you at least have okay tight ends, your team's live.
Yeah,
like your team's alive.
Yeah. So they brought it up in the chat that I could bring up the board for the big dog. We won't do this for every team, but we will do it for this one. So we did take Lamb over Kelsey, and I think the thought process was we had Pete on stream. I don't know if you'd notice how many red badges we have here.
Yeah.
But there's quite a few. And we probably were worried about this being a standard
Felix,
ship chasing.
KZ, Chris G. Who's Sniper? I know who Sniper is, but I can't remember who Sniper is. And Young Man Coffee. I've seen Young Man Coffee. So like half the room is ship chasing people.
You would think so, yeah. So we were like, let's grab CD to have a wide receiver, and we grabbed him over Kelsey. And I don't think we expected someone like AJ Brown to come back to us here, or when he did, great. And you can see that we grabbed Leonard Fournette a lot later than he normally went. So it's not like we grabbed Fournette in his normal spot.
Yeah. I mean, he went between Jalen Waddle and Gabe Davis, who both went.
I mean, the only thing that would have been better here would have been grabbing Nick Chubb over Leonard Fournette, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was.
That's complete hindsight, right?
Yeah, it's easy to say now, but you look back and you're like, oh my God, can you imagine if we took Nick Chubb?
Yeah, and then just left the team the rest of the way.
Holy shit! Seriously though, if Nick Chubb was on this team, oh my God.
Yeah, like that's the one flip that would have been like pretty freaking crazy. And then everything else is kind of like, all right, we took Jerry Jeudy over, maybe Godwin's better there, I guess. Would have been a better play.
Yeah, but I think
like these are all 1-for-1s. Let's see the quarterback.
Late fourth James Conner is funny. Late fourth James Conner, and it eventually became a ship chasing room.
Yeah. So we saw Trevor Lawrence go in the 11th. We saw Justin Fields go in the 12th. We saw Mac Jones and Matt Ryan go in the 13th round in this draft.
Matt Ryan, wow.
So I think this is what happened with us at quarterback, where we were just like, just push it, right? We had Hurts. So that kind of explains the quarterback thing a little bit. And our last two picks were Tannehill and Zach Wilson. Like, we just pushed quarterback to the very, very end. So I don't hate it. I mean, if you look at the guys drafted around them, it's not like we really missed on too much. Mostert, maybe. I
think you prefer a third tight end though over the third.
I agree for sure. Yeah. That I'd been fine with it. But look at the tight ends that were taken. It was like
shitty.
Trey McBride, Brevin Jordan.
And there was no really good. There's no good answer there.
In a nutshell, I think you're right. I think you want the third tight end over the other quarterback there, especially when you have Hurts. So that's a good point. I liked looking at the board. It kind of made things make a little more sense as well. All right, so let me find another team that we can probably dunk on. I know we're going to go to Best Ball Mania next, and I know the first team we're going to look at. Let's look at my big team. My team I have 1,756 points on. Let's go with that team first. I didn't draft this on stream.
1756. My highest is in BBM is 1727.
So this team's a little unique. So yeah, we got 1756 on this team, and I try to do a double bully tight end, and I think double elite quarterback on this one. So we have Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Running back, we went Singletary, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson, Michael Carter, Raheem Mostert, Dearness Johnson. So it's fine, it's nothing flashy. Wide receivers, we still got Diggs, Higgins, Christian Kirk, MVS, Nico, Christian Watson, Devin Duvernay, and Sammy Watkins for some reason.
Is this with Davis?
I know. This is probably my one Sammy Watkins team. And then at tight end, we have Travis Kelce and Darren Waller, which I kind of like the way this team fell. I mean, maybe one stronger running back somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
The Henderson run out has been brutal. And the Michael Carter run out has been brutal because everything
fell
kind
into
of
place.
Everything fell. I mean, the Rams sucking didn't fall into place, but like he was the RB1. Like you draft a 12th round running back and he doesn't need an injury to be the RB1 on the reigning Super Bowl champs. Like, yeah, that's awesome, right? Michael Carter, the thesis was he's going to be a committee guy, and then he has the contingent value. He was a committee guy. He lost that kind of, but still, he was getting work, and the contingency bet paid off, and the team's better than everybody thought it was. But they're both Michael Carter. We'll see. I don't really believe they're going to give Zonovan Knight every single touch down the stretch, but we'll see. Henderson though is just a brutal run out, man. Absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and I like advancing this type of team with Mahomes and Hurts to the playoffs just because that one of them has the dip game and knocks out a lot of the Mahomes teams, or Hurts has that one dip game and knocks out a lot of the Hurts teams, but Mahomes elevates it, or vice versa, and you still get both of those guys through to like the finals. That's a lot of fun, in my opinion, to have a double quarterback team like that. Didn't do it a ton.
Will you draft any double elite tight end teams next year like this?
Well, there's only one elite tight end, so it's impossible to draft a double elite tight end.
Good point. Very good point.
All right, so next team that we drafted on stream was with Veronica, professional poker player.
Yep.
And that draft was a lot of fun as she wasn't a big, she was learning on the fly, and we were having fun with it. And we started with Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers as our quarterbacks. RIP to Aaron Rodgers. Running back room's brutal. How this team's getting through, who knows? We have Najee, Chase Edmonds, Alexander Madison, Kenneth Gainwell, Khalil Herbert, and Chris Evans at the RB spots. Wide receivers, we have Devontae Adams, Gabe Davis, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith, Brandon Ayuk, Sky Moore, Christian Watson. And we have Noah Fant, Taysom Hill, Daniel Bellinger as our tight ends. So the running back spot is a little brutal.
I mean, you're advancing because of everywhere else.
Oh, absolutely.
My Lord, everywhere else is beautiful.
We crushed the wide receiver portion of this draft with
and then
Devontae.
you get Taysom to help. We've talked about this too. Like if you're gonna punt tight end,
mm-hmm.
I want to spend more time thinking about Taysom is. I don't mean to find the guy who happens to have played quarterback in the past, is this weird guy. I know that some people, were really fixated on Taysom, and I think that was a smart process. I don't mean to try to find a backup quarterback who is tight end eligible moving forward. I just mean, I think with, like you just said, there's one elite tight end. Punting tight end is certainly going to be viable. It's going to be high variance, but it's going to be viable. So spending more time finding the right archetypes instead of, sometimes I was a little bit lazy. I had some of my guys that I liked, which have largely whiffed, but also then I'm like, well, I'm just going to stack it up, right? I have Ryan Tannehill. I'll take Austin Hooper. I have this, I have whoever. I have Aaron Rodgers. I'll take Robert Tonyan. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't stack with your tight end, but I'm just saying when you look at your teams now and you're like, you have Noah Fant, Taysom Hill, and Daniel Bellinger. That is a tight end room when you totally punted it off at tight end that I think you can win one of these tournaments with. In my opinion.
And I want to do that more next year, I think, specifically because of what the tight end position has done this year. And Taysom is like next level in this spot, and I don't expect to get that production out of that second tight end consistently. But just half of that, right? Say he had 40 something or 50 points or whatever. You're happy with the three tight ends because you're just shuffling cards and throwing one out there for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, this team's not bad. It's got a ton of firepower at wide receiver. we can hit on some of these running backs. Maybe,
Isn't it?
Chase.
I think the story of these running backs is like, isn't it funny how sometimes running back doesn't matter?
Yeah.
On particularly to advance, people love their running backs in the space. There's a reason why we talk about like zero RB and structure and all that kind of stuff all year. There's a reason why I drafted like 50% zero RB teams in Best Ball Mania. It's because people think it's risky or just scary or whatever, when in reality it's like, dude, if you hit elsewhere, it doesn't really matter. Look at this team. This team's going to advance with Chase Edmonds is useless. Dalvin Cook has played all year. Alexander Mattison happened to, bonk a couple touchdowns, but like, who cares? Kenneth Gainwell is like not even really the handcuff to Miles Sanders. He's in a three-way committee. Khalil Herbert really helped you with a couple of weeks, but it's not like he smashed and you got 0 points from Chris Evans and you literally took the worst first-round pick in all of the worst 1-2 turn pick in all of fantasy. Najee has been awful, but like, if you hit quarterback, wide receiver, and your tight ends are decent, running back doesn't matter to advance. Now, you need points to win the tournament, but to advance, running back is like the least important thing. It sounds crazy to say, but like, you just need guys getting some kind of points at running back, right? You can't have Javonte and Brees and all that. This team mostly stayed healthy. You get a little lucky with a Madison touchdown here and there, a Gainwell touchdown here and there, a couple good Khalil Herbert weeks, and Najee scoring his, 5 points a week, and you're good.
Right. All right, let's do the best ball breakfast team. And if I remember correctly, I didn't try to jump in this best ball breakfast draft with Pete. I was just doing drafts, and then I saw the room, and I was like, please don't let Pete be streaming this. And then I checked, and I was like, come on, bro. Like, because I was making a conscious effort this year not to be in streamers drafts at all. Like, I just didn't want to be. So I think that's the way this one went down. I could be wrong. But we are in second in this one, and we have a 70-point lead. So we're in real good shape of advancing this team. Let's take a look at what we got.
Penny's the Mostert. Penny's the Mostert of this year. Yeah. Was just gonna smash and got hurt too early.
Yeah, so it's Mahomes and Zach Wilson, Rashad Penny, which, we just click the button a little differently there and end up on Kenneth Walker. You're in a lot better space. But we got Ramondre, Dameon Pierce, Rashad White, who's coming on, Gus Edwards, J.D. McKissick, Raheem Mostert for our running backs.
Still really good running backs.
Wide receiver is Debo, Courtland Sutton, Elijah Moore, Devonta Smith, Christian Kirk, MVS, Kendrick Bourne. Room context is important for this, right? It's a best ball breakfast draft. Your wide receivers are not going to be strong, like at all for the most part. And we have Travis Kelce.
But that's okay. That relative, again, like you said, relative to the room, that's not bad. Obviously, it's like none of the. I mean, Devonta Smith and Christian Kirk are league winner-esque. They're in the certainly above average tier. The other guys are not, but like, they're functional. If you have Debo on a team, you're not mad. You wish it was AJ Brown, but you're not mad. Right. All these guys are useful.
Right. And we have Kelce at tight end. And this just helps to perpetuate the fact that, like, if you have Kelce, I have CJ Uzoma here, who probably got me these points on Kelce's bye week, and it was Correct. 3 points. Right? Like, and it's just like, great. Thanks for those 3 points, CJ Uzoma.
Perfect segue. If you don't mind, I want to bring up Morvin's comment here. Is there any easy way to see which players you need to perform for your team or underperform for closer teams near you on your teams that are within 20 points back? There is not an easy way to see that from within the tool. I will kind of share my screen and just kind of, for anybody that doesn't know like what he's talking about. So if you go to the lineups page on Spike Week, so you go to Draft Tools and you go to Draft IQ, and then you go to the lineups page. So I'm just on all my underdog teams here. I have it sorted by points. I'll sort it by points behind because that's kind of fun to look at the teams that are close, right? So it's, let me zoom in so it's easier to see. I mean, isn't this crazy? Like, this isn't, the big board was 3 advancing, but 0.5, one team 0.5 points behind, one team 0.78, 2, 4, right? But you cannot see which specific players that you need for that given team. It's definitely something we've discussed. One thing you can do, this isn't by team necessarily, but we did add this advance rates page, which I'll flip over to this advance rates page really fast, and you can see again by any single tournament. I'll just go to all, so you see all my contests here, and you see, this is so funny. Like, you can see the players that are on your advancing teams, and you can see the structures, right? And the roster builds that are on your advancing teams. And so obviously I drafted Mike Davis once and he's advancing. I drafted AJ Green, what the fuck, once, and he's advancing. Breece Hall, literally once, and he's advancing. Josh Jacobs, shocker, 5 times, almost always advancing. Ken Walker, almost always advancing, but not like high volume. So it's kind of this isn't, totally solving the question that you have. You definitely have to go into the specific site, something we're very much considering, but like kind of combining all of this stuff, being able to look at the lineups and search all that kind of stuff. I kind of know what I'm rooting for, right? Like, I know who I have 27 Patrick Mahomes teams with a 41% advance rate on those Patrick Mahomes teams. It's like, okay, I'm rooting for Patrick Mahomes. You'll notice it's a lot of elite quarterbacks: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, right? I'm rooting for these guys. Shockingly rooting for Derrick Henry, which makes me sick. Miles Sanders, I have found out in this research, to Morven's point, is probably my most important player in all of best ball. He is on 60 teams out of 270 and has a 35% advance rate, and he's on teams. He's on more teams than just advancing, right? He's on close teams when I started to dig into it. And so kind of the combination between this and that lineup and that lineups page was helpful for me to kind of back into this question that you had. And I've literally spent far too much time thinking about basically your question and trying to find out who is important to me. You can't see the underperform for the teams near you from here, but you can definitely see the the teams the players you want to perform pretty easily. You're muted.
And I think something you could have done that you didn't do there is you could have, instead of doing it by like the 100%, you could have switched it to your most drafted players up the top of the list. And that makes it a little easier to see the players that you're really like looking for, right? Instead of scrolling through. That would be one way to do it as well. Instead of looking at advance rate, look at your number drafted at the top of that. And that helps a ton. And you, like you said, you're rooting for Miles Sanders. He's like your most important player. And you can kind of figure that out by looking at that.
Yeah. So like, that's not you definitely are going to have to do like a little bit of individual digging for like any individual specific team.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you can find out pretty quickly like who you need to root for.
Yeah. If you're volume drafting, you're looking at the whole picture. It's tough to break down every team. If you drafted 576 teams, like trying to figure out, you're going to go insane trying to figure out like, I need this guy to do this, but this guy not to do this, you got to root for the percentages at that point.
I wanted to bring up, not to cut off some of the stream. We can definitely bounce back, but it just had me thinking about. So you brought up your highest scoring team. My highest scoring team in BBM is kind of what we talked about closer to the beginning with like some of the extremes.
Yep.
You see here. If you're watching on YouTube.
You zoom just like one thing, and I think that would be better. Maybe one more. Yeah. There we go.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's too much.
Oh, God.
Too much zoom. You've given you too much power.
Right.
There we
go. Yes. All right. So a 3 7-7-1 build,
Fun.
right? So my QB1 is Justin Fields. So clearly that has worked very well in terms of high scoring teams. One other thing that I thought was like remotely interesting was, got really good ADP value. Like it's something I don't frequently look at. Like you look over here at this Superflex team. It's like this combination of things where like my second highest scoring team is of course a Superflex team. So that Superflex is naturally going to score more points. And it's just Fields and whichever Steelers quarterback. So that's kind of funny. But I didn't particularly get good value with the Superflex team. But with this BBM team, I got good value, and I drafted late round QB, right? And I drafted 0 RB. So again, you see my boy Miles Sanders pop up here. Justin Fields is probably very unsurprising. But honestly, the other two quarterbacks, you're like Jared Goff and Marcus Mariota. But like when you pair them with Justin Fields, mostly they just got me through those early, like 4 or 5, 6 weeks of Justin Fields where he wasn't very good. And Goff and Mariota probably like ping-ponged 18-point weeks. Got me through. Then Justin Fields pops off. And they also provide, Mariota needs to keep the job, obviously, coming out of the bye for the playoffs. But like they provide a little bit of cover for those first 2 rounds of the playoffs where like, you don't need the absolute stone cold nuts, right? You need good scores. But like if these guys score 20 points in the week 15 or 16, you can win. Justin Fields has tough matchups for anyone's wondering why I'm saying that. But late round QB, so talk about the extremes. This is my highest scoring team. This isn't like the most live team that I think I have necessarily, but like this is the team that I have that scored the most points. And you would look at it after the draft and you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, there's no way this is your highest scoring team. Justin Fields, Jared Goff, Marcus Mariota, 0 RB. Miles Sanders has been a hit, but like Singletary, meh. Naheem Hines, ironically, I now have like quasi handcuffed my guy, except James Cook's probably going to smash and bury both of them. James Robinson, mostly useless. Zamir White, useless. McKinnon's been all right. And Boston Scott handcuffed Miles Sanders with Boston Scott. Like, are the running backs good? Not really at all. It's just kind of like the team you showed. If you get enough, you just get enough, and the weeks kind of layer in, it works. And then, Devontae, T, Gabe, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith, MVS, and then Kelsey. And I only took Kelsey. So like to that extreme point, I just smashed these wide receivers with Kelsey and then loaded up a bunch of shitty running backs and shitty quarterbacks. And sometimes it just works out for you. It's my highest scoring team. And I don't know how live it is, but it's not dead. You know what I mean? And so I thought it was another kind of interesting example in terms of the extreme strategies.
I think it's good to show that Kelsey team because as of now, he might be the only one you can do that single tight end with next year. And God, he's going to be 47 years old next year, right? Something like that.
35. He turns 35 next year, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, he actually, it's not exaggeration.
Yeah, it's somewhere 34, 35 years old in that wheelhouse. So who knows how long he can keep doing this. I mean, he's still doing it. I'm not going to until I'll be a year late on Kelsey is the way I look at it. Like usually you want to be a year early on a player and not and stop, drafting him. Then I'll be a year late on Kelsey just because of the position. So I'll smash Kelsey next year and I'll feel fine about it. Do you have other teams you wanted to show up there, or do you want to go back to some of these streams?
I want to hit a couple questions really quickly. Marathon says, is there a public list for advance rates of players overall? If I have 50% Jamal Williams advancing, but 25% of Jamal teams overall are advancing, I know where I have some leverage. I believe you can go to, this is not perfect, but if you go to the Underdog Discord, they have a channel, bot commands or something like that. If you go to their announcements channel, I think it's in there. You'll be able to find where they say it. I think it's hashtag bot commands. But anyway, you can download the data directly from Underdog that has all the first place teams. So it's not there you go. So go to I think it's go to bot commands and and do this, what you just said, and call that data. And it'll give you I believe it's all the first place teams. So it's not apples to apples with advanced rate, but it probably gets you close enough to what you're looking for in terms of comparing it, in terms trying to find leverage players. It's also a little different because leverage doesn't exist that way. Like you could get to your pod, right? Because this format, it's not a DFS tournament. It's like a 12-person DFS tournament in week 15. But like if Jamal has a 50% advance rate, but Jamal could be 80% on your pod, or he could be 20% on your pod. It's a little difficult to do that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter till the finals so much.
Yeah, the finals is absolutely where it matters, and they'll post that. Underdog will definitely.
Yeah, they were good about that last year.
Yeah, post that. Felix, honestly, I don't know. I was trying to find it, and I didn't look. I didn't label our draft stream, so I totally apologize. But I'm gonna search my Najee teams really quickly, and
all three of them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Let me zoom back out a little bit. And so we shocker that I had Felix on the show, and we drafted a Najee Harris team. I have 4, so 0% advance rate, but one's close. I'm guessing
I nailed it. It was three Najee teams in Best Ball Mania.
Yeah, one puppy team with Najee, and three Best Ball Mania teams with Najee. I am guaranteed. So I'm almost certain that it's this one, this first one over here. Let me do one more zoom. I'm almost certain that it's this one. We are 8.92 points back with Kyler. Zach Wilson is terrible. This is definitely the team because I know how much Felix. This is like the Felix special. Zach Wilson, Najee. I think he was into Kyler too, but Najee, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary. Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Damian Pierce, Khalil Herbert, and Hassan Haskins. This is the team. And we've spotted all of his guys. Hassan Haskins was one of his guys. If Snoop Connor was on here, it really would have been a dead giveaway. Hollywood, Gabe, Amon-Ra, Tony, Garrett Wilson, Jahan Dotson, Nico, Zay, Mark Andrews, and Hayden Hurst. Right. This is a good team. I mean, Zach Wilson is dead, so it's all riding on Kyler. But every running back is healthy except Herbert, right? And he'll be back in week 16, I think. Mm-hmm. Every wide receiver is healthy because Tony's back. Andrews and Hurst is totally fine at tight end. It just needs to get in there. We need to make up 9 points. Kyler. We probably are not. We were probably advancing, and then
the bye week. Yep.
Kyler bye week with Zach Wilson benched, hurt, but it's alive. This team is alive to do damage, not just. So while we're reviewing stream teams, it is alive to do damage as well as alive to advance. Obviously, down by 9 points.
Yeah, I mean, I like that team if it gets through. Should be able to. I mean,
yeah, this is Felix. This is the problem. Jets QB was the play, just the wrong one. That's because one Jets QB is good and one Jets QB is should go play in the CFL.
They should all go play in the CFL. If we're being honest.
I locked Mike White in DFS on Sunday.
Did you?
I only 20 maxed. I was gonna 150. I just didn't have. I ran out of time kind of on Sunday, and I ran 20 teams with all Mike White, and honestly, it was totally fine. My whiff had nothing to do with Garrett Wilson was great. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with fading Amon-Ra St. Brown as he scores another 0% Amon-Ra on a 40-point week when he's 50% owned. Is typically not going to work out very well.
Sunday was the most tilting football day of my life. I was super sick. I was in a house that was built in the mid 1600s that they've never updated. So there's literally one electrical outlet in there. There's no heat, so the house was 27 degrees, and I'm making a run at the Sunday Million on FanDuel, and I'm like filming and doing stuff, and like the few times that I wasn't doing stuff, I'm watching my team inch up. We finished 20th in the Sunday Million. We almost got them. We came close. Sky Moore.
Sky
Moore. Sky Moore scores like, a touchdown or something. I don't know if we win, but we get top 5, top 10. And yeah. Goddamn Sky Moore. Team was crushing.
There is a sick kind of mind meld going on between you and I. We've clearly talked too many times over the course of 12 to 18 months because we didn't talk on Sunday. We talked on like last Wednesday or Thursday or whatever, and never talked again for the next few days.
Yep.
And you have a team that ships $1 million or whatever, 250, 500,000 with Sky Moore. My DFS teams were, I went all in Jets, so I wasn't live to ship anything in DFS. So I'm like, you know what? Let's have a cocktail and throw some same game parlays on the afternoon slate. Was awesome this week, right? Bengals, Chiefs, Seahawks, Rams, Chargers, Raiders. It was awesome. Let's had Buddy over. Let's run some same game parlays. Had a $100 same game parlay on the Bengals Chiefs game to win 28 grand. Everything hit except Sky Moore's over receiving yards. And you and I are talking a couple days later after we both basically died from some illness, whatever flu or cold or whatever that you transmitted to me over StreamYard. We both are like, oh yeah, by the way, Sunday was like, was crazy or whatever. We're shooting the shit, and it's like, yeah, we were, you are like sharing the team as I'm typing my message. Like I was just I needed 22 Sky Moore receiving yards for $30,000, and you're like, I needed a Sky Moore. I could have used 22 Sky Moore receiving yards for $1 million, and we're like, what the, it was like a total mind meld situation. But it all really comes back to Sky Moore's fucking terrible, and we all drafted the worst Chiefs wide receiver in the 8th round.
Yeah, it was so painful, so tilting. And I was fighting with the optimizer that morning because I'm like, I had to leave the house, and I was trying to get like 30% Kelsey, and the Rotogrinders optimizer was spitting out, even if I put in 30% Kelsey, was giving me 0%. And I just got like frustrated, and I was just like, whatever you want me to do, optimizer. And that's what I learned. I learned the optimizer knows more than me. So. All right. I'm gonna share my screen again. I have a few more teams to get through here. So this is the last Best Ball Mania team. And we see some familiar faces in this one. This was a solo draft on June 21st. We see Felix in 12th place, as is predicted. I'm sure there's a Najee team going on there.
Najee, Zach Wilson, we know what's just look at it. Just click it. Just click it. I just want to. Yep.
Oh, good. Trey Lance, Zach Wilson.
Najee Harris.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep. We got the Najee, ETN, Cordero Patterson, T. Higgins, Elijah Moore. Yeah, Kyle Pitts.
And Kyle Pitts. Oh,
Dawson
my Lord.
Knox. Beautiful.
This looks like my teams.
11th place, I was inverted. Oh my God, you didn't win something. So that's new.
This was a friends and family draft. 100%. Numi's in here.
You're in here in 6th place.
Dan's DB730. Dan, our freaking boss, is in this draft, advancing. He just hops in every draft that we do, and he crushes.
He just absolutely smashes. Let's look at your team. You have Fields on this team, which is good. Saquon, Nick Chubb, Cam Akers, Rashad White.
Robust teams. This is what I get. Look at those shitty wide receivers.
Yeah, the wide receivers really killed you here.
Yep.
But you buried Kelsey on this team.
Every non-advancing Kelsey team is painful.
It is painful. Let's look at Dan's team real quick. Carr Lawrence, DeAndre Swift, James Conner, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre. How do we allow this? How did we allow this to happen?
Christ. Ken Walker, Ramondre, and Mostert with like Swift and Connor have really not been that good, but I bet he's doing the shit that we're talking about on this stream, where it's like he looks at this one, it's advancing, and he's like, I'm getting Swift and Connor through. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. It has Devontae, Amari, like this team's nice.
Yeah, I mean the wide receivers do fall off a bit. Waller hurts unless he does come back. Evan Ingram, Taysom Hill.
He said he's coming back next week.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But so yeah, he gets that car double stack. I mean, it's not a bad team. But let's see who, the guy in first place, me. See how great I was. So we got Allen and Tua, which is good.
Pretty good.
We went Mixon here for some reason. I know why we went Mixon on this team. So we went Mixon, Singletary, Chase Edmonds, Melvin Gordon. What a weird run out those two.
My Lord.
So we are really just two running backs here.
All three of the last three running backs is kind of really funny. Like just a weird, awkward run out. And I've never actually seen someone have a running back that got 1 point on their
impressive, right?
Before.
Is that great?
That's pretty. It's usually 0 or 7, like not 1, like a straight 1.
It's impressive. We have Diggs, Juju, Godwin, Christian Kirk, Tyler Lockett as our 5th pick for wide receiver. Alec Pierce, Curtis Samuel's been good. Odell, Nelson Aguilar. Then we have George Kittle and Hayden Hurst. I mean, the running backs is what's going to kill this team. And I can say we went Mixon because we must have grabbed Diggs and Mixon fell beyond where he normally would. And we just got that week 17 Buffalo Cincy going on here. So fun team. I was probably trying to set up some sort of Miami thing. Actually, I wasn't, because Waddle and Hill would have already been gone. So the setup for Tua was Chase Edmonds, I guess. So Marathon says that's why he's the boss. Yeah. He might be taking that belt home behind me too.
He's right there. Yep.
He's in first. I think it's a 3-way race for the Spike Week championship.
Him and the ship chasing boys, right?
Yep, him, Corain, and Pete.
Crane.
Yep.
I'm in last, duking it out with the other ship chasing boy, Rotoviz boys. I'm trying to dig out a last place, but my team's so bad. It's me and Sean / Gretch's teams are both so bad. We're both just like, who can score 90 points this week? Then we'll get out of last.
It's beautiful to see. I have 2 more if we want to look at the other 2.
Yep.
So let's go back to the season. Puppy 3 is what we're looking for. And we did a stream with Silas. Make sure none of our friends are in here. Looks like they're not. So we are in first with 1592. We could still lose out on this one. We're probably not, but we're 35 points ahead of third place. So we have Mahomes and Daniel Jones.
This was you and Silas. Sorry.
This is me and Silas. We have, for running backs, J.K. Dobbins, Damian Harris, Kenneth Walker, Cordero Patterson, Raheem Mostert, and Isaiah Pacheco. It's not terrible.
This is a sorry, not to cut you off. This is like one of those running back rooms that it feels fine. Doesn't feel like, oh my God, this is the $100,000, $200,000 winning running back room. But like, it's the perfect combination of good enough with enough juice, healthy. I know Dobbins and Harris need to get healthy or whatever, and Ken Walker's a little banged up, but like let's just assume it gets through this next week, and we assume Dobbins is back, Harris is back, Walker's back for the playoffs. It's like the perfect combination of, dude, if CPAT went for 102 in a week, would you be surprised? No. If Mostert did it, no. Pacheco did it, not really, right? Walker obviously can do it. He's done it multiple times. Harris, has obviously ceded to Ramondre, but I mean, if he had a big week, would you be surprised? No. Dobbins, same thing. It's like These are really fun running back groups, I think.
Mm-hmm. Then for wide receivers, we're looking at Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, AJ Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Kadarius Toney, MVS, George Pickens. So we end up getting the double stack for Mahomes without trying to get the double stack there with Kadarius Toney.
It's a great double stack too. Tony MVS is nice.
Yep.
Good tight ends. Good tight ends.
Fun tight end room. Freiermuth, Tunyon, and Daniel Bellinger. So that 3 tight end build, again, I'm starting to come around on that a lot more. Even if you get Freiermuth a little early.
Yeah. But it's like, people will do it sometimes with like, they would have still done it with Goddard and Hawkinson. Mm-hmm. It's like, people want to draw the lines in the sand on which round you got them, and I don't think that that's what you want to do. But like the archetype of the player or whatever, like Dallas Goedert had the upside to be like a top 3 tight end this year. I mean, he might do it. If he hadn't gotten hurt, he probably would have done it. Yeah. Hawkinson, I guess, was maybe that way. Freiermuth, I guess that was in there, but not necessarily. Like it's kind of like quarterback, tight ends like quarterback. There's a line in the sand where like you got past Jalen Hurts this year, or when him and Kyler flipped. When you got that Kyler and Hurts. We all love Trey Lance, but he wasn't in that tier. You got past those guys, and it was like, if you wanted to do 3, honestly, even with like Lance, that's fine. It was like, if you want to do 3, do it with the tight ends beyond Hawkinson. Mm-hmm. And like every year that's going to be different. But like, this is a great example of like, dude, any of these, I guess Bellinger probably can't catch 2 tight ends or two touchdowns in a week, but like Tunyon can. Freiermuth is like if you don't have Kelsey and you don't have an elite guy, Freiermuth's probably the one guy you want because like he's always going to get 7 points or something every single week. And that's like the dream, dude. Jesus Christ. If you could sign up all my teams for a floor of 7 points at tight end every single week that don't have Travis Kelsey, I'm like, yes, absolutely. Give me that. Yeah. So like Freiermuth can go again, like 6 for 60 and a touchdown. He's a guy I would want on my teams right now.
Yeah. So it's a fun team. I think it has a chance of getting through and doing some damage if it can advance. Which is looking like it's gonna. And I have one more team that I want to show, and it wasn't a stream, but it was. I tried something. I think we talked about this team. It is in second place, but it's in second place by 80 points, so it's gonna advance. And what I did, if you read the name of the team, it says top of queue 1 through 15. And I did this because I ran through a long stretch of getting a lot of 12th picks, like drafting from the 12 spot a lot. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to draft whoever's at the top of the queue for the first, I think 15. It was either first, what does it say? It's through 1 through 15. So yeah, the first 15 picks on this team were top of the queue. And then I used the last 3 picks to flesh out the team if I thought something was needed or whatever. So for the top of the queue team, Patrick Mahomes, Matt Ryan, Joe Mixon, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, Devin Singletary, James Cook, Keontae Ingram, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Tim Patrick, RIP. So we know this was before that injury. Jarvis Landry, this is how you know, right? David Bell, which, God, remember when we were drafting him? Tolbert, same. Yes. Odell, Paris Campbell. And then my tight ends are Travis Kelce and TJ Hawkinson. So it's doing pretty well for a team that like was not drafted with any type of structure in mind. I still somehow stack Mahomes with Kelce.
Yeah, you got the best stack in best ball on the team.
Yeah, that helps, and getting Josh Jacobs. But the way you can tell is
ETN, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, that running back room is really good.
Yeah. And just based off of it, that I look at the team and I'm like, it's like, oh, he didn't really draft from the top of the queue, but I wasn't drafting a lot of Mixon or ETN. I would have never drafted both of the Buffalo running backs together if that was the case, right? Like, I literally drafted from top of the queue, and I don't hate the team. One more wide receiver would have been nice, I guess.
Yeah.
Waddle Ayuk is a little light, but I just found it interesting that doing that, I can pull up the draft board on this. Someone's asking a question. I think I can pull up the draft board on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you not?
Yes, but I don't. Go back. Go hit the back button.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, there it is. There it is. All right, give me 1 second. I'll share this. Let me remove this. Let's present another screen. And it's this one. So Mahomes was 312. I guess. Maybe I reached for Mahomes. Maybe that was the one thing I did on my own. Maybe I went Mahomes. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I just grabbed from the top of the queue.
I mean, it doesn't mean that Mahomes wasn't at the top of the queue, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe he wouldn't be because some of these other guys were
early.
ahead of.
It was really early, right?
1, 2, end of the third round.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
possible.
Maybe that was.
It was Tim Patrick time. It was.
Yeah, so maybe
early.
he was going early. Yeah, it's tough to remember that stuff, so that makes sense, I guess.
You mean you don't remember ADP by day over the course of the entire summer?
No, I don't. But Josh Jacobs, 6th round. I mean, like Hawkinson. I like it. It was a fun exercise, basically, to do. Yeah, and obviously Mixon over Travis Kelce because whatever. I mean, it's just the way it was. But yeah, so this was what that draft was, and then I fleshed it out after Matt Ryan was my last pick. I grabbed Odell, I grabbed Paris Campbell for the stack, and I grabbed Keontae Ingram just for a running back. Probably should have grabbed another wide receiver there. But yeah, this was it was a fun experiment. I don't recommend doing it. Right? Like it's not something I would suggest doing.
Well, if they all turn out like this, maybe.
But if you're drafting a high volume and you wanted to do something like that, do it in. I did it in a puppy. I didn't do it in a Best Ball Mania. You want to do something fun in a puppy? You want to break it up a little bit? It was just a little fun exercise just to see what your team would look like in that spot. But if you're not drafting a lot, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're drafting hundreds of teams like we do, like all the sickos in the chat do, then go for it. But let's get out of here. We're gonna have I will start to close this out with sorry, apparently still got the cold going on.
I did see this in the chat real quick. Sorry, let me find it. Rob was a different Rob, not me. Needs to make another shanty. Yeah. I think we're good with the one shanty for this year, but I won't rule out doing. I mean, because the week 17 shanty works so well for this year, right? Like
it's gold.
I think we lessen the week 17 shanty with week 17 coming up if we did another one, but that doesn't mean that I can't come up with another idea for a different shanty to poke fun at structure or player takes or something for next year.
Between the two of us, we got lots of ideas for some silly season stuff to do over the course of the next months. I assure you. Not necessarily a shanty, but lots of good ideas.
We don't die from this rogue sickness.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, the longer you and I talk, it's coming back to me. I can't get this like phlegm out of my throat or whatever the hell's going on here right now. But I was just gonna say, shout out Neil, by the way. Also, like Neil, if you have 5 teams left in 2 weeks, like good on you.
Yeah,
I want 5 teams. If I have 5 teams in the semifinals, like we're gonna be doing the show, and my desk is gonna be up like this. That like that's the dream, dude. 5 teams in the semifinals. I think I had like 3 teams in the semifinals last year, and I thought that was awesome. But obviously, as you guys have seen, throughout the course of the season, we're doing a couple streams a week or whatever. It's time now. We're in peak best ball sweat season. Just about every weekday moving forward, we will have some kind of show. We'll get together and sweat teams. You guys we'll have reviews of you sharing, your teams that you're most excited about, your teams that are right on the edge. Next week, we'll get into before Monday Night Football, and it'll be okay, this team is teetering on the edge, but I got to fade this, or I need this amount of points from this player. Just moving forward, I'm really, really excited, obviously selfishly, but also for all of you guys to let's just hang out and sweat our teams together. And obviously next week it's playoff time. You know what I mean? Once we get to Tuesday, we're going to start digging into playoff teams. I'll show you some of my playoff pods. I'm sure some of them will be against you guys. Same with Rob. Some of our playoff pods will all be against each other, and it'll be fun to just really start to dive into the best part of the whole best ball season that we just spent, a whole year planning for. So we all appreciate you guys, and I'm very excited for the next, month.
If we manage to get a team to the finals, myself or you, are we going to do a stream sweat on that Sunday?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm going to say words that
they have the whatever that NFL like product or whatever it is that you can like simulcast like red zone almost or whatever on your stream or whatever. But so anyway, yes. If we have a team in the final, last year you guys will get to watch me when I'm in full on sweat tilt mode. I like to joke around and stuff like in normal life and in this streaming situation, but there's a TV literally right in front of me on the wall, and so I'll have that up, and you guys will watch me just probably curse too much and jump around and be a madman on that finals week if we can get a team there. Obviously,
I might have to rotate this desk around so I can watch on my normal TV behind me there. But yeah, we'll do a stream. That'll be fun. Hopefully we both have a team in the finals again.
Hopefully.
That would be a fun sweat. And I can't wait to rage quit after, some stupid thing happens 3 minutes in. And I'm just like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this anymore. Goodbye.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. I hope to feel better. Oh, I guess I will say for everyone that, is watching this and is probably on the same wavelength as us, apparently I'm going on ship chasing this evening, and we're going to talk some more best ball stuff. So if you did not get enough over the course of the last hour and a half, I'll see you guys in 3 hours.
Oh, are you covering for Pete?
Yeah. He's like having a baby or something. What the fuck are his priorities?
All right, if you want to sneak attack Karain and make him see that team that we made him draft,
send me a screenshot. Send me a screenshot. I'll pull it up on this show.
Or just fucking invite me on the show.
Oh, well, I figured you were like gonna go die in bed or something.
I might go die in bed. I'll shoot you a screenshot, but if you want, I'll probably be around. I can jump on and we can torture Karain for 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, cool. All right. I'll see you guys later. We're gonna be doing a lot